Garry Marshall, creator of Happy Days and director of Pretty Woman, dies at 81. Los Angeles. Writer-director Garry Marshall, whose deft touch with comedy and romance led to a string of TV hits that included Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and the box office successes Pretty Woman and Runaway Bride, has died. He was 81. Marshall died Tuesday in a hospital in Burbank, California of complications from pneumonia after having a stroke, his publicist Michelle Bega said in a statement. The director also had an on-screen presence, using his New York accent and gruff delivery in colorful supporting roles that included a practical-minded casino boss Unswayed by Albert Brooks, disastrous luck in Lost in America, and Crass network executive in Soapdish. In the neighborhood where we grew up in, the Bronx, you only had a few choices, Marshall said in a 1980s interview. You were either an athlete or a gangster, or you were funny. Marshall, brother of actress-director Penny Marshall, earned a degree in journalism from Northwestern University and worked at the New York Daily News. But he found he was better at writing punchlines. Garry Marshall vertical line Pretty Famous He began his entertainment career in the 1960s selling jokes to comedians, then moved to writing sketches for The Tonight Show with Jack Paar in New York. He caught the eye of comic Joey Bishop, who brought him to Los Angeles to write for The Joey Bishop Show. Sitcoms quickly proved to be Marshall's forte. He and then-writing partner Jerry Belson turned out scripts for the most popular comedies of the 60s, including The Lucy Show, The Danny Thomas Show and The Dick Van Dyke Show. Marshall and Belson detoured into screenwriting in 1967 with How Sweet It Is, starring Debbie Reynolds, and followed it up with The Gere-Roberts 1970 with Jacqueline Bisset. But the two men kept their hand in TV. In 1970, they turned Neil Simon's Broadway hit, The Odd Couple, into a sitcom starring Jack Klugman and Tony Randall and produced by Marshall. It ran for 5 seasons and proved the beginning of a TV sitcom empire. In January 1979, Marshall had 3 of the top 5 comedies on the air with Happy Days, which ran from 1974 to 84, Laverne and Shirley 1976 to 83, which starred sister Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams, and Mork and Mindy 1978 to 82 with newcomer Robin Williams. Critics have knocked me for targeting society's lowest common denominator, he said in his 1995 autobiography, Wake Me When It's Funny, written with his daughter, Lori Marshall. I believe that television was, and still is, the only medium that can truly reach society's lowest common denominator and entertain those people who maybe can't afford a movie or a play. So why not reach them and do it well? He said. Penny Marshall told the New York Times in 2001 that her brother has a life. He's not into the show business glitterati. If he has a hot movie, that's great. But if he is something that doesn't do great, he's not around those people who won't speak to you or will make you feel terrible. After cranking out what Marshall once estimated to be 1,000 sitcom episodes, he switched his focus to the big screen with 1984's The Flamingo Kid, a coming-of-age story starring Matt Dillon, which Marshall wrote and directed. he concentrated on directing, with his later films, including 1986, has nothing in common with Tom Hanks and Jackie Gleason, Overboard 1987 starring Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, Beaches 1988 with Bette Midler and Barbara Hershey, Pretty Woman 1990 with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, and Dear God 1996 with John Denver and George Burns. The Gere-Roberts pairing that helped make Pretty Woman a smash hit did the same for Runaway Bride, which reunited them in 1999. The Princess Diaries in 2001 was another winner, although Marshall suffered a flop with Georgia Rule 2007 starring Jane Fonda and Lindsay Lohan. Marshall and his wife, Barbara, had 3 children, Lori, Kathleen and Scott. Funeral services will be private, but a memorial is being planned for his birthday on November 13, the statement said.